Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come in, come in, come in. Get on in here, y'all. Okay, this is Tamika's Den. I am Tamika. And I just wanted to talk with y'all for a bit about Bel Air, y'all. Yo, this show is freaking good. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. I was not expecting to like this. I didn't even know whether I should watch it. I definitely didn't have any plans on reviewing it. Um But I just wanted to talk about it a little bit because I think people need to know about this daggone show, okay? I think a lot of people would probably be like, a remake of Fresh Prince, like, nah, I'll pass. I talked about this one. It was one of the ones on my list in my What You Should Be Watching video. If y'all have not seen those, check them out, okay? I give y'all a list of movies I think y'all should be watching that I have either already watched or am currently watching. And this was on the list before it even came out, you guys. I was saying maybe some people might be interested in it. And now that I have got to watch the first 3 episodes, I think that you definitely will be in for a treat, okay? Um, like I said, I know when it comes to hearing something and like, oh, it's a remake, it's a reboot, right? We have a lot of shows turned into movies and vice versa. And you kind of be like, I'm over it. Why don't they get fresh ideas and all of that? I get it. I say it too. But like I said, I have to give credit where credit is due. I take my hat off to you guys. You, whoever's in charge of this, you did an excellent job. Okay, it pulled me into the story. It doesn't feel like, I think if they would have tried to make it into a comedy or tried to make it like how it was, of course it can only be one original, and that would have came off cheesy. But the fact that this is not your Hillary that you know, this is not your Will, this is not your Carlton, this ain't your Uncle Viv, this ain't Uncle Phil, this ain't the Jeffrey, totally different characters, totally different story. It feels so fresh and new. If you didn't know that story at all and you just was watching this one, you would just be like, oh, okay. And I'm pretty sure if it's young people that watch this one and get into this one, they will like it. And if they weren't familiar with that one already and they go back and watch that one, they may even find that one to be cheesy, okay? Because when we try to show the kids something from our time, they be like, we be swearing they gonna enjoy it, and they be looking like, what is this? I don't know, this ain't better than such and such and such. And I feel like they would probably do the same thing when it comes to this. But I think those of us that know about that one already and enjoyed that one for what it was would still be able to enjoy that one and look at that, as one piece, and then be able to enjoy this and like it because it's a completely different type of, like I said, storytelling to it, and be able to enjoy it for what it is. And it's not really that comparison thing. You're not thinking about, oh, why did they do it this way or that way? You are really just enjoying the story. First of all, the way it's shot is like a freaking movie. Like I said, it's dramas, not no comedy. We got a lot of stuff going on. And I just want to tell y'all a little bit about it and get more into it, okay? And this, it will be spoilers when I do my What You Should Be Watching. I don't put spoilers. I'll just give y'all the general synopsis that it says, or probably what you saw in the trailer. But in here, we will be spoiling, okay, some things. And I'm not necessarily going to be breaking down like each episode because, like I said, it's 3 that played already. But there are some things that I just want to point out and talk about, okay, that is like, yo, this show is on some stuff, okay, and I am loving it. So, we start out with Will and his mom. We see that, of course, she's a single mom. He's actually on the basketball team. He got scouts that's looking, for him to have potential to go to different colleges. Mom wants him to go away. Of course, he wants to stay in Philly. He's like, Philly's in my blood and my friends is here, my family's here. Why would I want to go away to school when I could just go here? And she basically tells him, like, you got your crown and you can put it on anywhere, you can shine anywhere. And she's trying to get him away from there because she knows that it's certain, bad elements around there and that he could fall into different cracks. And we seeing that he's a good student. He gets good grades, and everything is kind of flowing for him, great. He goes to his game, kills that, he basically scores like a 97 on his paper. So like I said, everything with the school situation seems to be great. When he finishes with the game, him and his mom are walking, and she's saying she gotta go to work now, and she's telling him don't stay out too late because he says he's gonna meet up with his friend Trey and hang with him for a minute. And when he goes and hangs with Trey, he basically, is eating like a Philly cheesesteak, and some other guy comes up to him, and apparently, this was a guy that would have been like big with basketball and had a scholarship too, had he not got into trouble and ended up in juvie type of situation or whatever. And the guy's just coming off cocky and talking mess to them. At first he's like, oh, why y'all didn't buy me one too? They like, well, all the money you making, you should be able to buy your own. And so, then it gets kind of heated. The guy showing them a gun like, oh, y'all want to talk that smack? Because I'll have something for y'all. And he basically, throws out something to Will and his friend Trey, saying, meet me on the court. You can't beat me. And he's basically saying Philly is his city. He owns it and all this. And Will lets it go to his head. His friend is basically saying like, yo, shake that off. Why are you even feeding into that? What does it matter what he says? It's always going to be a hater that says something. But Will is like, no, I got to show him. He can't disrespect me like that. He can't come at me like that. So he decides he's going to go to this basketball court, and him and this guy is going to get into it, right? Him and Trey is going to be on one side, and is the guy and whoever he chooses on the other side. And, what would they get for winning or whatever, because he got to prove to him that, this is his city. And so another guy, I think he's Rashad's dating, probably one of the head guys in, the drunk game or whatever, basically steps up and was like, okay, yeah, it's who I choose. And he was like, if you win, I'll give you $2,000. But if, they win, then you would have to come and work for me. And Will takes the bet. Okay, he's playing basketball, he's killing it, he beats them. But the guy's mad that he got his behind kicked, and he goes and was trying to throw the ball to hit Will in the head, but instead end up hitting Rashad. But then walks off, and basically when Rashad turns around, he's thinking it's Will in them, and a fight just breaks out amongst all of them. They end up jumping his friend, Trey, and Trey had a gun that was in his book bag, and so Will ends up pulling that out on them and, trying to get away and trying to just get them to stop, jumping Trey. And of course the cops come, and essentially Will ends up getting caught up in it. He ends up going to jail. And so, Rashad sees him getting out, and he's like saying, well, how did he get out? He didn't even see a judge or anything. And he was like, if you pulled that gun on me, then you had to use it. And so at this point, it's like, watch your back. You're going to have a target on your back. You're not going to be able to get away from me. I see everything. I know everything type of thing. And on top of that, like I said, he thinks that he snitched because he's like, how the hell could he be getting out of jail that quick? And so what happened was his mama came and picked his behind up, okay? And she had made a call to his Uncle Phil, all right? And he pulled some strings to get Will out. Of course, Will doesn't notice at that point, and she takes him straight to the airport because he's looking around like, yo, what's going on? Why I'm not going home? And she's like, nah, you going to LA to live with your aunt and uncle. And of course he's upset about this, and he's like, what are you doing? No, how I'm just gonna leave like that? And she was like, I already packed the bag, and the rest of your stuff will be coming to you later. She was like, it's either you leave now, or you stay in jail where you was at, or you possibly could get killed, and I'm not gonna take that chance. And so off to LA he goes, okay? He ends up meeting Jazz, who happens to be a driver that basically, had picked him up from the airport to drive him there to, Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil's house. And they both are like, whoa, when they see it, okay? Because these people are living in a freaking big mansion with cars everywhere. And so he was like, yo, you didn't tell me your family was white. And then, Jeffrey comes out to meet them at the car and pays Jazz $200 for bringing him there. And like I said, baby, these ain't the other ones you knew about, all right? Mr. Jeffrey is dressed down in his suits. He's like, oh, I'm the house manager, whatever the case may be. He sees Aunt Viv. She's coming and hugging him, happy to see him. He meets Hillary. Hillary, she tells her to go and style him so that he could join the party, because they have a donor party going on for Uncle Phil, because he's running for DA. And so with Aunt Viv, we see that she used to be an artist, all right? But now she teaches art. With Uncle Phil, like I said, he's running for DA with Hillary. She's a big time food influencer on YouTube, and her mother's kind of trying to branch her over to become one through companies that she know or something to get her on TV, because of course she doesn't really take the whole YouTube thing seriously, but she does think that she has talent and she makes good dishes, and usually she would have her make the different dishes for parties and stuff like that she has, and Hillary will cook different stuff around the house. And so um that's interesting, or whatever the case may be. And he realizes that once he got settled and came down to the party for a minute and was meeting everybody, he sees Carlton is acting all stuck up and snooty, but Carlton got attitude, okay, and he's pissed off that he's there. He tells him like, oh yeah, here, because you're supposed to be going to a better school. None of them know the real reason behind him coming there. And then he sees what's her name, Ashley, and she's just basically kind of like into the planet and the cleanliness, and worried about what's going on in the world and all that different kind of stuff. And so, like I said, he's meeting the different people at the party, and of course he stands out because everybody else is being proper, and he's like, yo, what's up, man, what's up, this one, that one, and blabbing, and they all just kind of looking. And one of the people that's there for Phil's donor party is like, oh, okay, he got swag, what's his story, what's going on with that. And so of course Phil is concerned that he's probably going to be digging into it and trying to find out why Will is there. And when Phil gets up to do his speech with the family, he starts talking about how, he wants to work on the criminal justice system, and how he wants to help poor families and people that, get put into these situations wrongly and get convicted wrongly and all that kind of stuff. And so, of course, Bell start going off in Will's head where he's like, okay, so they just got me here, like I'm some charity case or whatever, and to help him with his election. And after he's through with that, then he will probably be through with me. And so him and Phil do have some words later when they're by themselves, because Phil is like, you're living in my house, you're going to have to follow my rules, do what I want you to do, whatever have you. And Will is calling him out on the fact that he probably only wants him there because of this situation. And he's like, you got yourself into this situation, and I helped you get out. And Will is saying, I didn't ask you, to help me get out of anything. You did that on your own. I didn't even know you was doing that. I don't want to be here. So he was like, well, it's either you be here or it's be where, I got you out of. And he was like, you at least could be grateful. And so, when Will goes in the room, he sees his phone with like 12 missed calls from Trey. And Trey tells him like, yo, they looking for you. Where the hell are you at? He was like, I haven't been able to get in touch with you. And they're looking for me too. And they're basically saying that you snitched and you need to come back and fix this. So Will, with his crazy behind, I don't know where the heck he thought he was going. He basically done climbed over the gate, called Jazz to come pick him up, telling him to take him back to the airport. But before Jazz could even pull off, you got Uncle Phil on one end of the daggone car looking through the window, and you got Jeffrey on the other end. And so Jeffrey's basically passing him money, and then Phil is like, thank you for coming, but you could get on out of here, okay? What's your name? And he's like, Jazzy. He's like, okay, Jazzy. And he was like, well, who's you? Because, he had met Jeffrey when he first was dropping Will off the first time. And Uncle Phil basically says, Phil. And he's like, okay, Phil, well, thank you for the money. And so he's saying to him, like, where the hell did you think you was going? What did you think you were doing? He was like, of course, we got cameras everywhere. You didn't think about that. So they seeing him the whole time when he was trying to sneak out. And he was like, what did you think you was going to go and tell the drug dealer that wants to kill you? You know what I'm saying? This is not an option. You're going to have to go ahead and stick this out. And so, Carlton, of course, like I said, doesn't want to be bothered at all. He's supposed to be showing Will around, but really doesn't show him around. Basically tells him just to meet him back at 3. When Will goes to the locker room to meet him, they just saying the N-word all freely, all these white guys. And it pisses Will off, and he was like, yo, y'all can't say that, or whatever the case may be. And he ends up getting into it with one of the guys. And Carlton is basically okay with it. So he like, yo, what the hell are you into? And of course, this causes them to get into an argument. And so then Will comes up with a plan because, of course, this is an issue with the two of them arguing. And he's like, okay, well, we have to make it seem like we made up and everything is all good or whatever have you. He was like, I'll go with you to this party tonight. And once we get to the party, you go your way, I go mine. And, we meet back up to come home. That way they could think everything is squashed. Okay, so meanwhile, Carlton has an ex-girlfriend named Lisa that also has been chit-chatting it up with Will. They've been getting along good. She's one of the first people that he actually started speaking to outside of his family and, of course, Jazzy. But she just so happens to be the ex-girlfriend of Carlton. And so at one point, they're sitting at the party talking, and she's basically like, I never knew Carlton had a cousin. And he was like, well, I don't go around telling people Carlton's my cousin either. So she started laughing. And she was like, no, but do you know everything that he's dealing with? And so he's like, well, what you mean by that? Honey child, baby. Carlton out here doing drugs, okay? He over here sniffing, okay? And getting it in at the daggone party. And so at this point, when he turns around, he sees, Lisa and Will together, gets jealous, okay, pushes Will in the damn pool, which Will cannot swim, because he's mad that he's talking to Lisa or whatever have you. And so we closed out episode 1 with them fighting, and we came back in on episode 2 with them fighting, and now the video has got out, okay? Basically, of course, it was a fight. People was taking out their phones recording. Lisa had to end up jumping in the pool to save him. And so, of course, when he got out of the pool, he was ready to whip Carlton behind and the other guy behind too that was already singing the N-word from earlier. I think his name was Connor or Conrad, something like that. And so by it getting videotaped, now Aunt Viv knows about it. So now they're in even bigger trouble, okay? Because not only did they not make up from the first incident and be able to come together like they originally planned, but now they done got into a bigger thing and it's on video. And of course, because he hit the guy Connor as well, Uncle Phil had to make a call to his mom to try to, smooth it over so that she wouldn't be pressing no type of charges. So at this point, Uncle Phil says he don't know if Will is cut out to stay here. He's like, he just got here and there's already been 2 incidents. Whereas, Viv is saying, listen, you got to give him some time. The things that he's been through. She was like, at least let me talk to him. And if I can't get through to him, then we'll do whatever we have to do. But we can't give up that fast. And so he says we'll talk to him together, and if we both not satisfied with what he say, then we'll go on from there. But when they walk into the room, to go and see whether they need to send him on his way or keep him there or whatever, they see him all crying and upset, y'all, and come to find out Trey got shot and they do not know if he will make it. His mom had basically called him, and so at this point they don't even have the discussion they were supposed to have. They just come over and just holding him. Aunt Viv is just holding him, and let me tell y'all, I was boo-hooing, okay? They acting their behinds off, all right? It just makes you emotional, it makes you laugh. Like I said, the storytelling is so good. And so at this point, Carlton is still pissed with Will, so he ends up leaving him. He was supposed to be giving him a ride to school, but he figure out your own way. And then Viv ends up giving him the keys to the Lex. Okay, so he drives himself to school. And you could tell that Will has PTSD from the incident that happened with the police and being arrested and all of that, because he kind of wandered into a room, a classroom. It's empty, nobody's around. So he's like, well, what the heck is going on? Where is everybody? And when he comes out of that room, the security was like, well, what are you doing up here? Nobody's supposed to be here. And then he just runs instead of, answering the guys. Like 1 minute he's stuck there, the next minute he getting flashes back to what happened to him. And then he goes running off, right? And so he ends up running into a room that's full of all the students because he heard noise coming from there. And as he comes in, Carlton tells the security guard, like, oh, it's okay, leave him alone. You could tell, Carlton is the one that's basically running everything, right? All the kids seem to be into him and the faculty as well. And so he tells Will to come over, and he's acting like if he's just trying to introduce him to everybody and, be this cousin. But at the same time, that he's trying to be funny and he really wants to embarrass Will. He's putting him on the spot like, oh, yeah, did your school back home have this and that, and that's what we should be doing, helping underprivileged schools that don't have anything, and so on and so forth. And Will catches on to what he was trying to do, and of course gets upset about it. And he's kind of like, look where you at, and look at everybody, these is my people. And so Will doesn't get, to say anything. At the same time, you got Uncle Phil doing his interviews. He's having an interview with Big Boy. They trying to say, because he has this money and he's living in one part of town, he doesn't really understand what it is for the other, poorer black people and different stuff like that, and ask him different questions. Will tries to go get on the basketball team, but this coach is like, look, I done heard things about you. I done seen, the video you fighting. He's like, I don't need a problem on my team. But he does tell him that he can try out for the team. And, if he shows him that he's made of something, maybe he would take into consideration of letting him on the team. Then Will ask Lisa if she could help, because he's like, they all thinking that this fight started over one thing, when really it was basically having to do with her and the fact that Carlton was jealous. And she was like, she didn't know if she wanted to get involved into that, because like I said, Carlton runs everything at the school, y'all. And so, you had Hillary trying to do her cooking because her mom has set her up for this interview. And, like I said, wants her to become this big time influencer and stuff like that. But when she does the interview, they're like, well, you good. But they have all these different critiques. They don't want her. They want her to tone down her clothes. They want her to tone down the food. They want her to change her recipes. And so they were saying this was the only way that they would be interested in hiring her. And she was like, what I'm saying? That ain't really working for me. And so, of course, her mom doesn't understand. She's like, sometimes you got to just do what you got to do, for a job. And she's like, well, why, should I have to change myself and tone down? That's not the route that I want to go. Okay. And then we have Will on the basketball court with Jazzy. At one point, he comes to play, a game with him as well. And he's like, I got some moves on me too. And so you seeing him again with PTSD on the court, getting flashes, everything, having to do with basketball now is just reminding him of what happened on the basketball court back in Philly. And Jazzy is like, you don't got to tell me everything, but tell me something, because obviously there's something going on with you. And then we get Uncle Phil and Jeffrey. Like I said, this is not the Uncle Phil and Jeffrey that we saw in the other one, y'all. They sitting back, talking, having drinks. Another time they over here playing pool. And you could tell that he really confides in him. They reminiscing over the music. And, they talking about Will. And Jeffrey kind of tells him something similar to what, Viv was already saying. And he's like, you can't expect from him to be able to, change and adapt into this and within a couple days. He been through a lot. He was like, give him time and meet him where he's at. Show him that you could be on his level too. He was like, when I came here from Jamaica, it was hard on me. So it kind of gave Phil a different, outlook on it. And he sees that Will is outside practicing on the court that he originally built for Carton, but Carton doesn't use because Carton's not into basketball. Carton is into lacrosse. And so Phil comes out there and starts talking, with Will, trying to have a heart to heart and get into his head. And we found out that Uncle Phil got game. Okay, he out there shooting some shots or whatever and getting them in. And he's wondering why Will keeps missing for everything, all the shots or whatever that he's trying to make. And he opens up to him that he has still been getting these flashes. And Uncle Phil is able to talk him down. And once he does, now he's getting the shots in. And at this point, Carton walks out and he's looking. And you can already see that it's going to be jealousy and animosity like crazy between these two, okay? Because he's feeling like, Will is taking his dad. Like, oh, well, I'm not into basketball and now Will is. So that's a connection that them two have. And then you had Will go and try out for the team, make the team, and as soon as he finished making the team, a security guard, the same one that was, asking him where he was going and telling him he was on the wrong spot before, he comes up and he's like, let me check your book bag. And Will is like, for what? He was like, there's nothing in my book bag. And of course at first he's like, mad, frigid and scared because of the situation, but then he's like, I don't got nothing to hide, so okay, here, take the bag. And when he takes the bag, he finds drugs in it. And Will is saying over and over, these is not my drugs. I didn't do this. I didn't do anything wrong. I don't know where that came from, but those is not mine. And so Carlton denies knowing anything about the drugs, but he did not initially know about it, okay? Connor, whatever the hell his name is, when they're taking him away, turns and says to Carlton, see, I told you I would take care of it. So he was the one that put it in the bag. And at this point, you got Will going back and forth with the parents. Well, Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil. You got Carlton going back and forth with them, denying it. And they was like, we gonna get to the bottom of this, okay? And so Carlton goes to the school and was telling the guy, like, yo, you should have told me that you was going to do this before you did it. He was like, you don't know my parents. They don't play. My father can get a confession out of anybody. And my mother is a black mother, and you don't play with black mothers. So he was like, we going to have to figure something out. And Carlton is like, he was like, well, you know what we got to do? We got a free will. That's the only way we getting out of this. And so now they need to make sure that Will does not go down for these drugs. In the meantime, Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv went up there to that school and gave it to them. They was like, well, what did this investigation entail? And did y'all check the cameras and see who was going in and out? He talking about, oh, let me look in my notes. And he was like, oh, well, no, we didn't check the cameras, but, we did look into everything else and we voted and this and that. They was like, no, you didn't check the cameras. They was like, oh, hell no, that's not a go. And so because they went and fought for Will, they did have to let him off of, suspension and punishment and stuff like that, and say investigation pending. And then when this so-called witness came forward, okay, and told that it wasn't his, then Will was basically free to go ahead and get back to his classes and do what he was needed to be doing from the beginning. And so when he went up to Carlton and was like, I knew you had something to do with this, of course he still continues to deny it, and he was like, just be happy for the win. And so you had Aunt Viv meeting up with her sorority sisters, and at the same time Uncle Phil was supposed to be having a meeting with his frat brothers. He's trying to also get the endorsement of a pastor of theirs that had apparently married them and had a lot of affiliations with his family, but haven't been seeing much of them lately, and he don't really know whether he gonna be able to get it or not. He invites Will to it and then, tells him he's going to have some crawfish. And it's something that him and Carlton usually go to on their own. So, of course, Carlton kind of gets an attitude when he realizes that Will is going to be joining them there too. Carlton also did go and apologize to Lisa and say that he was wrong and out of line, with her, and that he still cares about her. And so, at the same time, Will gets a text saying, you better be wearing a vest. So he's still getting threats from these guys, even though he's away and he haven't, said anything to anybody about it. And then when he finally calls Trey again to check on him, because Trey was okay, he only had got shot on the shoulder, thank God. He was telling him like, yo, you wouldn't believe this school I'm at now, and they got me wearing the Hogwarts uniform. And so when Trey gets to see him on a video call, he like, yo, that's your uniform. And he was telling them like, don't worry about it, it could have been worse, and if you would have been here, you would have been shot too and stuff like that. And so he was like, well, this is a new number you calling me from? And he was like, yeah. So apparently he done changed the number and everything, and he's just trying to move on. And so then he goes to play his basketball game, and before he went to play the basketball game, I should say, they have the function that, Aunt Viv wanted to have with her sorority sisters. Things is going pretty good, but then Hillary lets them know that she dropped out of school. They like, oh, well, you just wanted to take off her off year. She like, no, I didn't want to have to deal with that anymore once I, graduated high school. So she has a different outlook and a different perspective, of course, than her mother. Her mother's kind of in her feelings about that. Not only that, it comes out that one of the people that is an associate of hers that she asked to get this interview for Hillary is there. And she's upset because she was like, yo, your daughter put out a video. She should be apologizing to me. She basically put out a video that was saying, that this company is racist and that they didn't want people that look like her family to be eating their food. And the video got over 2 million views. And so, of course, Aunt Viv is like, I didn't know nothing about this. And she's trying to get Hillary to apologize. But Hillary's like, I'm not going to apologize for the stuff that I believe, okay? I'm going to stand by what I believe in and do what I think is right. And so at the same time, Uncle Phil is struggling at his event because the Reverend ain't really trying to hear him. He like, you got rich, you moved away, you wasn't thinking about us no more. He was like, where was you at when we needed you? And when this person was sick and that was happening, we were the ones that came together to help. So he was like, I don't see why I should be endorsing you, because at first the guy kept ignoring him, didn't even want to have a conversation at all. And then towards the end of the event, he's like, okay, well, tell me what you got going on that should be of interest to me. And so, he kind of just shot him down. And Will was asking Carlton, like, what's that about? Who's this Reverend and why is he acting like that? And so Carlton had let him know about, the backstory of how they started. Excuse me, y'all. And where they were at now and why he was acting that way. And at the same time, Carlton was trying to get into this other organization and see if he could do an internship with them, with this man that had owned all these funeral homes. But come to find out, he's so busy trying to be slick with that man and sit down and play chess with him. And when he was supposed to be helping with the tables and chairs, Will was the only one doing all the work. Carlton was sitting down talking about, oh yeah, tables and chairs, I'm really supposed to be excited about that. Well, this is why you got to be careful about who you speak to and when and all of that, because the guy ends up telling him like, oh, I would love to help you out, but I'm not the one in charge anymore. The one that was in charge was the first guy that he was getting snotty with over the tables and chairs, and helping to put those out. He's in charge of it now. This guy's a retired. So basically that whole time he's sitting there, he was wasting time to a certain degree and trying to kiss up to the wrong person. And so with Will seeing that, the Reverend wasn't really trying to feel Uncle Phil's flavor and feel like he's down anymore, Will get up on the daggone stage, take the mic, and he's like, everybody listen to me, I'm Will, and Uncle Phil's my uncle. He invited me with him here today. And so they trying to get him off the daggone stage. Like, what are you doing? And he tells Uncle Phil, like, show me what you got. Of course, he getting up there and trying to imitate the moves that they do in the fraternity. And they like, no, you got it all wrong. And he was like, well, if I'm doing it wrong, show me the right way. And Uncle Phil gets it in, y'all. Okay. And apparently they used to call Uncle Phil Yamacraw, okay? And so they was like, you ain't acting like you Yamacraw no more. Now you Mr. Phil Banks, Mr. Rich and High and Mighty. And so Phil get up there and he gets a stepping, y'all. He break it down, okay? Uncle Phil was breaking it down on the floor for them, letting them know I still got it. And so they was like, okay. They actually all started clapping for him. And the Reverend was like, you know what? That's what I like to see. And he was like, maybe we can still talk and we can still, be able to get somewhere. And so at this point, that was another bonding moment for Phil and Will. So, of course, Carlton is pissed. And they come back to the house doing they stepping. And, Viv like, okay. And he was like, you know what? I think Will might have actually helped me. And she was like, I told you this boy is special. So, of course, like I said, Will has a basketball game that night, and Carlton has his lacrosse game. So, they have said, we will have to do half and half because both of y'all have the game the same night. Meaning half of the time would be spent watching Will game, and then half would be spent watching the lacrosse game. But, baby, Carlton and Will game, rather, was going good. So, they excited, they into it, they cheering for him. Everybody is in the damn gym watching that basketball game. When you look to Carlton's game, he don't see nobody there. The whole stadium is empty. He's saying, where is everybody? His game goes bad. Then he has the nerve to end up getting into it with them, cursing at the coaches and all kind of stuff. So they tell him he got to get out of there. And he goes in the damn locker room and basically starts sniffing up stuff, child, right out the locker, okay? Right out the locker, okay? And then he's hearing all of the noise from Will game, and he walking there, and he basically just sees, them all cheering. So we already know that's about to be a hot ass mess. And then because he does so good in the game, and because we got damn camera phones, and somebody always got to be taking a video, they are recording, baby, and the recording done made its way to Philly. It's done made its way to Mr. What the heck was his name again? It's done made its way to Mr. Rashad Denton. That was after him. And he's like, oh, okay. Gotcha. Baby, let me tell y'all. This show is freaking good. I really did enjoy it. I'm enjoying it now. I'm looking forward to see where else it's going. I don't know if I'm gonna do regular reviews on it like on a weekly basis. We'll see. But I did want to at least get up here for now and give this breakdown and just tell y'all about, how much I enjoyed it. That it was a pleasant surprise. Okay, if any of you guys have watched it, put it in the comments. Let me know what y'all think so far about it. Okay. Make sure you like, share, okay? Subscribe. Till next time. Toodaloo.